If she fights, hold her wrists. She's only 6, she'll get tired. That was my mother-in-law's voice. In my driveway, in the dark, talking about my daughter. Sadie was barefoot on the porch, clutching her purple backpack like a shield. My husband stood beside his mother and didn't move. Brooke, his perfect older sister, had the car door open, engine running. Sadie looked at me through the screen door and mouthed, "Mom?" Patrice smiled like she was offering me a favor. "You're being emotional," she said, soft and steady. "We're taking her where she belongs." My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from my daughter's school. Guardian pickup updated. I hadn't updated anything. Neither had my husband. Patrice lifted a folded paper. "Emergency guardianship," she whispered. Signed, notarized. Sadie flinched like she already knew what hands like that meant. And that's when I understood. My child wasn't safe in her own family. I didn't scream. I didn't lunge. My whole body went cold. The kind of cold you get right before a car crash, when your brain has already accepted what's coming. "Sadie," I said, keeping my voice low. "Come to me." Brooke made a little tisk sound, like Sadie was a misbehaving puppy. "She's confused. Don't make this harder." Patrice took one small step toward the door. She didn't rush. She never rushed. Patrice did everything like a woman arranging flowers, slow, precise, smiling while she cut the stems. "Owen," I said, finally looking at my husband. "Tell them to leave." He swallowed. His eyes were wet, but his face stayed blank. That blankness was the worst part. Angry would have made sense. Blank meant he'd decided something before I walked in. "Marisa," he said, and he used my full name the way he did when he was about to say something he didn't want me to argue with. "It's temporary." Temporary. Like a broken bone. Like a layoff. Like my kid was a suitcase being stored until someone better came along. Patrice lifted her chin. "We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for Sadie. Brooke can give her stability, a real home, a real structure." Brooke's smile widened, practiced and camera-ready. She always looked like she could turn a disaster into a brand partnership. "We've already set up the room. Pink walls, a desk, a yard. You know, the things a little girl needs." I stared at them and realized they'd been shopping for my daughter like she was furniture. My hand tightened around my phone. I wasn't recording. I should have been recording. But my brain was still catching up to the idea that the man I slept next to was standing on my porch helping his mother take my child. "Show me the paper," I said. Patrice didn't hand it over. She held it just out of reach. "You don't need to touch it. It's filed. It's legal. You can contest it later, of course. But tonight we keep the peace." There it was. Patrice's favorite weapon, peace. She used the word like a muzzle. Sadie's lower lip trembled. "Mom, I don't want to go." Brooke crouched down, voice syrupy. "Sweetie, it's just for a little while. You're going to stay with Aunt Brooke. We're going to have pancakes and a pool. It'll be fun." Sadie looked at the pool and pancakes being offered and still shook her head. Because kids can smell lies the way dogs smell fear. I stepped outside. The night air slapped my face. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "Sadie!" "Inside," I said again, firmer. Patrice's eyes flicked to Owen. That tiny look was a command. Owen exhaled and moved toward Sadie, and I moved too. I grabbed Sadie's backpack strap and pulled her behind me, into the house, and I slammed the door so hard the glass rattled. I locked it. Then I locked the deadbolt. Then I stood there, shaking, with my daughter pressed against my legs. Through the window, Patrice didn't look surprised. She looked disappointed, like I'd failed a test she'd been grading for months. "You can't keep her from us," Patrice called through the door, still calm. "The court already decided." "The court didn't decide anything," I snapped back, and my voice cracked anyway. "You decided. You and your little paperwork. Brooke's smile vanished for half a second. Then it came back, sharper. "Marisa, stop. You're going to scare her." I almost laughed. Like I was the scary one. Owen knocked softly. "Marisa, please." I didn't open the door. I didn't trust my hands. "What did you sign, Owen?" "Silence." "The kind of silence that answers you." Sadie tugged my shirt. "Mom, are they mad at me?" "No, baby." I crouched and pulled her into my arms, breathing in her shampoo, the only thing in my life that still smelled like truth. "Nobody is mad at you. Nobody gets to take you." On the porch, Patrice's voice slid right under my skin. "We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. Either way, Brooke is leaving with Sadie tonight." I stepped back from the door and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. Then I stopped, because I remembered what Patrice had just said. Filed. Legal. Already decided. If she had paperwork, calling the police might hand Sadie to them faster. I needed a different kind of help, the kind Patrice couldn't charm. I turned to my daughter. "Go to your room and get your shoes, the ones with the sparkles." Sadie blinked. "Why?" "Because we're leaving," I said. "Right now." And as I grabbed my keys, my phone buzzed again, this time a message from an unknown number. It was a photo, a scanned copy of that emergency guardianship form, with my signature at the bottom, a signature I had never written. The loops on the M were too neat. The slant leaned the wrong way. It was my name, but it wasn't my hand. Worse, there was a notary stamp from Rockwell County, 3 hours from us, a place I'd never even driven through. Under the stamp, in tiny print, was a date. Last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, I'd been on an overnight shift, dispatching calls from strangers who were actually in danger. So, if someone signed for me, they didn't just forge ink. They had access to my life. I didn't pack. I didn't think. I scooped Sadie up, grabbed the laundry basket full of whatever was closest, and slipped out the back door like a burglar in my own house. Our neighborhood in Cary, North Carolina was usually quiet at night, sprinklers hissing, porch lights glowing, the occasional dog barking at nothing. That night, every shadow looked like Patrice. Sadie's little fingers dug into my shoulder as I carried her to my car. "Mom, where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," I said. I hated how thin that sounded. I pulled out of the driveway with my headlights off for the first few seconds, like that made us invisible. My hands were so sweaty the steering wheel felt like it might slide away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Patrice and Owen still on the porch, silhouettes against our living room lamp. Brooke's SUV rolled slowly after me for a beat, then stopped at the end of the street, as if she was deciding whether to chase. When I hit the main road, my phone rang. "Owen." I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Then a text. "Please, don't do this. Don't do this." Like I was the one kidnapping. I drove to the first place my brain could land on. My friend Alicia's apartment. Alicia wasn't family. Patrice couldn't explain her way into Alicia's living room. Alicia opened her door in sweatpants with a face mask half on, half off, and took one look at Sadie's tear-streaked cheeks and my shaking hands. "Come in," she said. No questions. Sadie curled up on Alicia's couch with a blanket and my phone playing a cartoon on low volume. She watched it without really watching, eyes darting every time a car passed outside. Alicia handed me a glass of water. "Talk." So I did. I told her about the porch, the paper, the school text, the fake not fake signature. I even told her the part I was embarrassed to say out loud that my husband stood there and let it happen. Alicia didn't gasp. She didn't give me the "maybe you misunderstood" look. She just said, "Okay, we're calling a lawyer. It was after midnight." Lawyers don't answer after midnight. But Alicia's sister did. Her sister, Tori, worked for a family law firm. Tori wasn't an attorney. but she knew enough to speak in the blunt language Patrice couldn't bend. Emergency guardianship isn't a magic spell, Tori said over speakerphone. But if they have something filed real or fake, you do not hand that child to anyone, and you document everything. Screenshots, voicemails, cameras. Also, do not meet them alone. My throat burned. What about the signature? They sent me a copy. Send it to me, Tori said. And if it's forged, that's not family drama. That's a crime. I forwarded the photo. Then, I did the thing I'd been avoiding all night. I called Owen back. He answered on the first ring. Voice wrecked. Where is she? I almost said. She's with me, where she belongs. Instead, I said, What did you sign? Silence. Then his breath shuddered. I didn't know, he said quickly. I thought it was school forms. School forms don't get notarized, I said. My voice sounded like someone else's flat, adult, dangerous. He swallowed hard. Mom said it was a temporary authorization in case you had one of your episodes. My stomach turned. My episodes? I'd had panic attacks after my dad died, 2 years ago. I'd gone to therapy. I'd done the work. Patrice had smiled at me through it all, bringing casseroles and talking about healing, while quietly labeling me unstable. She said the judge would want to see a plan, Owen continued, rushing. She said Brooke could help. She said it would take pressure off you, pressure off me. By removing my child. Did you sign my name? I asked. No, he said too fast. No, I swear. I signed mine. So, he didn't forge me. He just opened the door and handed Patrice the keys. Why? I whispered, and that's when Owen finally said the part he'd been choking on. Because she threatened me. I waited, my skin prickling. Owen's voice cracked. She said if I didn't cooperate, she'd tell Sadie's school that you drink. She said she'd tell the hospital where you work, that you leave your shift early. She said she'd tell everyone that. That what? I snapped. That you're not really her mom, he blurted. My blood went loud. Alicia, across the room, mouthed. What? I gripped the phone so hard my fingers went numb. Say that again. Owen sounded like he hated himself. Mom said she has paperwork from when you gave birth. She said there's something wrong with the records. She said if it comes out, Brooke could get custody, because Brooke has resources. I stared at the wall while my mind tried to build a bridge between words that didn't belong together. I gave birth to Sadie, I said, with my own body, in WakeMed. I have stretch marks as evidence. What records? Owen exhaled. I don't know. I didn't ask. Marisa, you don't understand my mom. When she sets a plan, she doesn't stop. I laughed, one sharp sound. Oh, I understand her now. I understand you too. Please, he said. Let me see Sadie. Let me talk to her. No, I said. Not until I know whose side you're on. Alicia took the phone from my hand and spoke into it like she was swatting a fly. Owen, if you come here, we call the police. Tell your mother and your sister to stop contacting the school, or we'll file for a restraining order tomorrow. Tinders. Owen didn't argue. He just whispered, I'm sorry, and hung up. I sat there with the dial tone buzzing in my ear and realized something else. Patrice had already reached Sadie's school before she even reached my porch, which meant she'd been planning this for weeks. Tori texted back a few minutes later. One more thing. Look at the notary name. I zoomed in on the stamp. The notary's name was Kay Harlan. My chest tightened, because Kay Harlan wasn't a stranger. Cara Harlan was Brooke's best friend, the one who'd hosted Brooke's baby shower last year even though Brooke wasn't pregnant, the one Patrice always called like another daughter. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time it wasn't a photo. It was a boarding pass. Brooke Henderson, 6:10 a.m., RDU to Denver, passenger. Sadie Marshall, and under special assistance, it said, unaccompanied minor. I didn't sleep. I went into that clean panic where every move is math. Alicia drove because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Sadie sat in the back with her sparkly sneakers on, remembering to be brave the way only kids can. RDU at 4 a.m. is fluorescent, quiet, and full of people pretending they're not tired. I walked straight to the airline counter. There's a child on the 6:10 flight to Denver listed as an unaccompanied minor, I said. That child is mine. The agent started to give me the scripted smile. Ma'am, I can't discuss. I'm calling airport police. Alicia cut in. That changed the temperature fast. An officer came over. He asked Sadie, gently, who was taking her. Aunt Brooke, she said. Grandma Patrice said it's a surprise. Did your mom say it was okay? He asked. Sadie shook her head. Mom didn't know. The officer's eyes met mine. In that look, I felt him switch from family dispute to possible abduction. My phone lit up with Owen. I answered because pride doesn't protect kids. Where are they? I asked. His voice was hoarse. Mom and Brooke left. They told me they were getting breakfast. Marisa, I didn't know about the flight. You knew enough to sign something, I said. Go home. Get Sadie's birth certificate. Bring anything Mom has made you sign. Anything. Yes, he said, too fast. I'm coming. If you've ever watched family turn into paperwork overnight, hit like and subscribe. Stay with me, because the next part flips the good intentions mask right off, and once it's off, you can't unsee it. At 5:05, Brooke strutted into the terminal like she owned the place, leggings, designer jacket, smile, ready for a camera. Patrice glided beside her, carrying a folder. Brooke spotted Sadie and opened her arms. There she is. Sadie pressed into my hip. I stepped forward. She's not going. Patrice didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Officer, she said sweetly. Thank you. Marisa is having an episode. We have emergency guardianship for Sadie's safety. Brooke handed over the form. My signature stared up at me from the bottom. I kept my voice steady. That's forged. The notary is Brooke's best friend. Brooke's smile twitched. Kara is a licensed notary. It's legal. Then why did you buy my child a ticket and call it a surprise? I snapped. Patrice's eyes narrowed a hair. Because you would have said no. The officer asked for Sadie's ID. Brooke shrugged. She doesn't have any. Patrice reached into her tote and produced a little blue booklet. Sadie's passport. My stomach dropped. How do you have that? We applied months ago, Patrice said, still calm. With Owen's consent. Traveling is complicated with children. Months ago. While she hugged me at birthdays and called me family. The officer's voice hardened. Ma'am, step aside. I need to verify a few things. Patrice tried one last layer of sugar. We're only trying to help this child. Brooke can't have kids. We're giving Sadie a real home. The officer didn't blink. Wanting a child doesn't make her yours. Airport police took Patrice and Brooke to a small office. Sadie stayed with me, fingers locked around her rabbit's ear. I should have felt relief. I felt dread. Because Patrice doesn't bet this big unless she thinks she's holding a winning card. Owen ran in at 5:31, hair a mess, eyes wild. He didn't hand me a birth certificate. He handed me a thick envelope from a law office, addressed to Brooke. Stamped on the front in red. Petition for temporary custody hearing today. 2 p.m. Owen's hands shook as he held it out. I found it on the counter, he said. Mom left it there on purpose. To scare me, I said. I tore it open right by the gate monitors. Inside were pages of concern dressed up as accusation. That I worked excessive hours. That I had untreated anxiety. That Sadie's routine was unstable. One line made my vision blur. Mother is not the child's legal parent of record. I snapped my eyes to Owen. What does that mean? He looked sick. Mom said there's a problem with the hospital records, he whispered. She thinks she can use it to move faster. That's not how birth works, I hissed. I was there. I was bleeding. I was holding her. I know, he said. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying Mom believes she can make it true. An airport officer pulled us into a small room and asked the questions Patrice was counting on. How the passport happened. Why my signature didn't match. Why a child was booked as an unaccompanied minor. My consent was forged, I said. And Owen's was pressured. Owen swallowed. She threatened Marissa's job, he admitted. She said she'd ruin her. The officer nodded once. Then you need to be in court today. Tori texted me a name and a courtroom address. If you don't show up at 2, she wrote, they can get an order without you. I turned to Owen. Birth certificate. Now. His face fell. It's not at the house, he said quietly. Mom took it months ago. Said she needed it for insurance. My stomach sank. So she's been building this for months. Owen nodded, shame all over him. Tell me what to do. Go to her house, I said. Get Sadie's documents, birth certificate, social security card, anything with her name. If Patrice tries to stop you, let there be witnesses. Let there be a record. When airport police finally released Patrice and Brooke with a warning, Patrice walked past me like we were passing in a grocery aisle. This is bigger than your feelings, she murmured, voice gentle. At 2 o'clock, the judge will agree. Sadie tugged my sleeve and whispered, Grandma told me to call you Mari now. She said, Mom makes you mad. That tiny sentence hit harder than the custody petition. Patrice hadn't just planned paperwork. She'd been rewriting my role inside my daughter's head. And Brooke didn't look at Sadie even once. She looked at me like I was the obstacle between her and the life she thought she deserved. By noon, I'd met with Tori's attorney, Nina Kaplan, at her office in Raleigh. Nina was in her late 30s, hair in a tight bun, eyes sharp enough to cut through Patrice's smile. She didn't let me tell the story in the order my feelings wanted. She made me tell it in the order the judge needed. Timeline, she said, tapping a legal pad. When did Patrice take Sadie's documents? When did the school pickup change? When did the passport get issued? Every question felt like a punch because every answer proved the same thing. Patrice hadn't snapped. Patrice had engineered. Nina printed the airline boarding pass, the guardianship form photo, the notary stamp, the school text, my call logs. She circled the notary name with a red pen like she was drawing blood. At 2, Nina said, you do not argue with Patrice. You do not react. You let me do the talking. Your job is to look like a mother who can be trusted with her child. Owen texted at 12:47. Got. In. Mom's at a nail appointment. I found a lockbox. My stomach tightened. I called immediately. He answered in a whisper. She has a safe in the pantry, he said, hidden behind cereal boxes like she's hiding drugs. Get it, I said. I can't open it, he said. It needs a code. It is noted Jusdens. Look for paperwork, Nina said, leaning in. Anything with a combination. Anything that looks like a key. Owen rummaged. I could hear drawers opening, papers rustling, his breathing loud in my ear. Then he went silent. Owen? I said. He swallowed. Marisa! I found something worse. My chest went tight. What? A file, he said. It says Sadie Trust. Trust. That word hit like a bell. My sister Clara died 3 years ago. No spouse. No kids. Just me. She'd left a small trust for Sadie, because Clara adored her niece, and because Clara didn't trust my husband's family as far as she could throw them. I'd never told Patrice the details. I'd never told Brooke. I told Owen, and I told him to keep it private. Apparently, privacy is a joke in that house. What's in it? I whispered. Owen's voice turned sick. Statements, account numbers, a letter from the trustee. Nina's eyes narrowed. Who's the trustee? Owen read it. Whitman and Hale. It says distributions begin when Sadie turns 7. It says the guardian has to approve. Nina sat back slowly. There it is, she said under her breath. Patrice wasn't stealing a child for love. She was stealing control. Owen's voice shook. There's also a note, he said. Mom's handwriting. If Brooke is guardian, we can finally access it. My stomach flipped. Take pictures, Nina said fast. Don't move the file yet. Photograph everything, Owen whispered. Okay. And I heard the faint click of his camera, then a sound in the background, another voice, sharp. Owen? Patrice. My blood went ice. Owen's breath hitched. She's home, he whispered. Get out, I said. Now. I can't, he said, panic rising. She's between me and the door. Nina grabbed my phone and put it on speaker without asking. Her voice went calm in that terrifying way professionals get when danger turns real. Patrice, Nina said. This is attorney Nina Kaplan. Owen is retrieving documents that belong to the child's mother. If you interfere, you may be committing obstruction and theft of vital records. Patrice paused, just long enough to adjust her mask. Oh, she said, sweet as pie. You must be the lawyer Marissa hired to punish her family. Nina didn't bite. Return the child's documents, she said. Immediately. Patrice sighed like Nina was being unreasonable. We're trying to keep Sadie safe, she said. Marissa is unstable. She's overwhelmed. Brooke can provide consistency. And frankly, with that money involved, we can't risk mistakes. There it was again. Money. I closed my eyes. My sister's gift, meant to protect Sadie, had turned into bait. Owen's voice cracked. Mom, give it back. Patrice's tone sharpened just a fraction. After everything I've done for you, she said. You're going to side with her? Side with my daughter, Owen said, and it sounded like it hurt to say out loud. A thud. A drawer slamming. Patrice hissed something under her breath. Then Owen exhaled hard. I'm outside, he said. I grabbed the file. I couldn't get the lockbox, but I have the trust papers. Come to court, Nina said. Now. At 1:55, we walked into family courtroom 3B with Sadie holding my hand. She wore a little cardigan with embroidered stars. Patrice and Brooke were already there, seated neatly behind their attorney. Brooke sat beside her with a folder on her lap. Patrice saw Sadie and smiled wide. Hi, baby, she called softly, like she had any right. Sadie leaned into me and whispered, Please don't make me go. My knees almost buckled. The judge came in. We stood, then sat. Patrice's attorney spoke first, painting Patrice as a worried grandmother and me as a ticking clock. He said mental health a lot, like it was a weapon. He said best interest, like it was a magic phrase that erased consent. Then Nina stood. She didn't dramatize. She didn't insult. She laid out facts like bricks. The forged signature, the connected notary, the secret passport, the attempted flight, the sudden school pickup change. And then she placed Owen's photos of the trust file on the table. Your Honor, Nina said. This petition isn't about safety. It's about access. The grandmother has been collecting the child's documents and financial records for months. Patrice's smile faltered for the first time. Brooke's attorney objected. The judge held up a hand. Patrice leaned forward, voice trembling. We're family, she said. We're not criminals. We're just trying to help. The judge looked at her over his glasses. Help doesn't require forged signatures, he said. I wanted to breathe. I couldn't yet, because then Patrice's attorney stood and handed the judge a sealed envelope. Your Honor, he said. We have reason to believe the petitioner is not the child's biological mother. We request immediate genetic testing and temporary placement until maternity is confirmed. My mouth went dry. Nina's head snapped toward me. Did you ever IVF? Surrogacy? Anything? No, I whispered. I gave birth. Across the room, Patrice's eyes met mine, and for the first time her smile wasn't sweet. It was confident, like she'd been waiting to play this card, and the judge turned to me and said, "Ma'am, we're going to need clarity on the child's parentage before we decide where she sleeps tonight." The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just looked tired, like he'd seen 1,000 families call control love. Nina stood. "Your Honor, if the petitioners truly doubt parentage, we'll submit to genetic testing today," she said. "But temporary placement should not punish the only consistent caregiver this child has ever known." Patrice's attorney pushed for a neutral home until results returned. Neutral like my daughter was evidence, not a little girl with a nightlight. The judge turned to me. "Ma'am, will you submit to testing immediately?" "Yes," I said. "Right now." Sadie's fingers tightened around mine. "Does that mean I'm not yours?" I knelt. "You're mine," I told her. "No paper gets to change that." During a short recess, the clerk opened Patrice's sealed envelope. Nina skimmed the first page and went still. "It's an amended birth record request," she murmured. "Filed last month." My stomach dropped. Under affiant, the name was Patrice Larkin. Under requested correction, she'd listed Brooke Henderson as the child's mother. Nina stood the second we were back on record. "Your Honor," she said, voice razor flat, "this is not a good faith concern. The grandmother attempted to alter the child's birth record to name her daughter as the mother. That is an effort to falsify vital records." Patrice didn't flinch. "I corrected a mistake," she said softly. "Marisa was barely conscious after delivery. Somebody had to make sure Sadie had a future." "A future you can manage," Nina replied. The judge's eyes didn't soften. "You also booked the child as an unaccompanied minor without the mother's knowledge," he said. "You provided a guardianship form with a disputed signature. You obtained a passport without proper consent. Those are not mistakes." Brooke stood up abruptly, cheeks red. "We were trying to do what was best," she said, then swallowed like she'd said too much. Nina slid Owen's photos of the trust file onto the table. "There is also a financial motive," she said, and she read Patrice's handwritten note into the record. "If Brooke is guardian, we can finally access it." Patrice's mouth tightened. "That money belongs to family. It belongs to Sadie," Nina corrected. The judge looked at Brooke. "Did you know about the trust before you filed?" Brooke hesitated. In court, hesitation is a confession with better hair. "Yes," she said. "Mom told me." Patrice turned on her. "Brooke." Brooke flinched, then blurted. "You said it would fix everything. You said if I had her, people would stop looking at me like I'm broken. Not a child, a solution." The judge turned to Owen. "Sir, what did you sign?" Owen stood. "My mother brought me papers," he admitted. "She said they were school authorizations. I signed. I shouldn't have. And she took Sadie's documents from our house." "Hizo, do you support this petition?" the judge asked. Owen's throat bobbed. "No," he said. "I support my wife and my daughter." Patrice's face twisted like she'd been slapped by the word wife. The court ordered immediate swabs. Nina insisted it be done in a child-friendly room with me present. The bailiff brought sealed kits. A court officer swabbed Sadie's cheek while she stared at the ceiling like she was trying not to cry. Then the judge ruled. Sadie stayed with me. Patrice and Brooke were ordered no contact pending the full hearing. The judge also referred the signature, the passport, paperwork, and the birth record alteration to the district attorney. Outside the courtroom, Owen reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold on either. "I'm sorry," he said. "I kept thinking if I stayed calm, Mom would stop. She didn't stop, I said. She escalated. And you helped her. He nodded, eyes shiny. Tell me what to do. Do the right thing even when your mother cries, I said. That's a start. 2 days later, the lab result came back. Sadie's DNA matched mine. Clean. Undeniable. Patrice's doubt evaporated into a piece of paper she couldn't talk her way around. We locked everything down after that: school passwords, pickup lists, doctors, camera footage, a protective order Nina filed before Patrice could pretend this was just a misunderstanding. Patrice sent one text. I did what a grandmother should do. You'll understand one day. I stared at it and realized she really believed that. And that's the part that still messes with me. A week later, we were back in front of the same judge for a longer hearing. Patrice arrived with a Bible and a box of homemade muffins. Like carbs could erase attempted abduction. Brooke arrived with dark circles under her eyes, and a new kind of silence. One that said her mother had stopped being a comfort and started being a trap. Nina presented the passport application, the notary log, the school pickup change request, and Owen's sworn statement. Brooke's attorney tried to pivot to mental health again, but the judge wasn't interested in buzzwords. He was interested in actions. By the end of the day, Patrice's no-contact order became a full-year order with strict terms. Brooke was warned that any further interference would trigger contempt. The judge also ordered supervised visitation for Owen until he completed a parenting course, not because he was dangerous, but because he'd proven he could be pressured. Owen didn't argue. He signed up the same night. He moved into the guest room at Alicia's for a while, because trust doesn't snap back like a rubber band. Patrice tried one last tactic. She dropped a stuffed bunny and a note at Sadie's school office. Signed, Grandma Who Loves You. The receptionist called me, uneasy. I drove over, picked it up, and threw it away without opening the note. Sadie climbed into my bed that night and curled against my ribs like she was checking that I was still real. Mom, she whispered, half asleep. You're not going to leave me, right? Never, I told her. If you made it this far, I need your take. Because this is a moral knot that families love to hide under the word help. Do you forgive someone who says they were doing it for the child, when what they did was terrify that child and try to take her anyway? Would you ever let them back in? Comment it, and share this with someone who needs permission to draw a hard line. In the quiet, with every lock turned, I finally understood the ugliest truth Patrice taught me. Sometimes the people who chant family first are the ones you have to protect your child from the most.